They called it the Silent Vault, a sealed chamber deep beneath the ruins of Zorthal Prime. No one dared approach it. Not anymore. It had been nearly a century since the last team had tried to open the chamber, and those who did never returned. The stories that followed were told in whispers, of an ancient warrior trapped in slumber, surrounded by the bones of those who tried to reach him. There were no records of his kind. The vault wasn't just old, it was pre-empire, prehistory. Even the most advanced scanners showed nothing inside but an unmoving figure, clad in armor that defied explanation. His presence radiated an unnatural pressure, something that made the air feel heavy even through reinforced suits. Drones malfunctioned. Audio feeds went dead. Some said he wasn't asleep. He was waiting. The Galactic Scholars Union had deemed the vault forbidden. Cults formed around it. Superstitions spread across the systems. Pilgrims left offerings at the entrance. Military expeditions were quietly defunded. And so, the vault was left in the dark until humanity arrived. The human delegation wasn't supposed to be there. Their ship had been rerouted by a navigational glitch, or so they claimed. A single freighter, marked with civilian tags, carried a mixed crew of explorers, engineers, and one ex-military specialist named Elias Ward. Ward wasn't interested in the vault. Not at first. He was there for survey data, checking geological formations for possible mining routes. But when he heard the local Tavari guides whisper about the chamber, when he saw how even their war-hardened elders avoided the ruins entirely, curiosity bloomed like fire inside him. Humans didn't do well with mysteries left unsolved. They cracked open black holes for research, stepped foot on planets boiling with acid storms. One ancient vault wasn't going to be left alone, not if Elias had anything to say about it. He stood at the edge of the vault's massive stone doors, palm flat against its surface. The air was unnaturally still. Behind him, his crewmates waited nervously, rifles half-raised, though they knew no living thing had ever emerged from that place. "Scan it again," Elias said, his voice calm. "No life signs. No movement." "Same as the last 50 times," replied Juno, their ship's tech specialist. Elias nodded. "Open it." Juno hesitated. "You sure about this?" "Open it." With a hum of ancient mechanisms and a groan like metal dragged across bone, the vault split open. Cold air spilled out. No, not air. Something else. A feeling, as if space itself recoiled. Inside, nothing moved. Dust drifted lazily in a shaft of light. In the center of the chamber, seated atop a stone dais, was the figure. He was huge, taller than any human. His armor was dull silver, tarnished with time, yet untouched by decay. It wasn't made from any known material. Angular and smooth, as if forged from starlight and forgotten anger. A helmet obscured his face, and across his chest was a weapon, too large to be anything handheld, too elegant to be crude. And yet, he didn't move. The team's breath caught. Elias stepped forward, ignoring Juno's protest. "Don't," she whispered. "What if he wakes?" He didn't stop. He walked straight up to the warrior and stood barely a meter away. The pressure in the air increased, a thick gravity pushing against his lungs. His heart pounded, but his voice was steady. "You're not asleep, are you?" Elias asked softly. No answer. He reached out and placed his hand on the ancient warrior's shoulder. The universe held its breath. The warrior's eyes opened. They were not glowing, nor shining. They were deep, fathomless, like voids carved into the fabric of reality. Elias didn't step back. Instead, he lowered his hand slowly. "You were waiting," Elias said. The warrior tilted his head. The movement was slow, mechanical, yet deliberate. A voice followed, not from the mouth, but directly into Elias's mind. Not words, but intent. "You are not afraid." Elias smiled faintly. "I've been through worse." For the first time in 100 years, the warrior moved. He stood with a fluid grace that belied his size. His weapon shifted onto his back with a click that echoed like thunder. Dust exploded outward from the dais. Outside, the vault's pressure vanished. The rest of the team stared in disbelief. Some took a step forward. Juno didn't move. Elias turned toward them. "He's not a threat." The warrior turned too, scanning the group. Then, without warning, he stepped forward, past Elias, past the team, and walked out into the ruined corridor beyond. He didn't attack. He didn't speak. He simply walked, each step radiating purpose. The lights in the ruin flickered to life as he passed. as if responding to a long-forgotten command. The team followed at a distance. "What now?" Juno asked. "I don't know," Elias replied. "But I think he's showing us." They exited the ruins under a dark sky. The warrior looked up at the stars, his eyes focusing on constellations long changed by time. He raised one hand, and from his palm, a projection appeared. A galaxy, marked with symbols none of them could read. Then, one by one, the stars began to vanish in the projection. Juno gasped. "That's not a map. It's a record of systems gone." The warrior turned to Elias again. "You must remember." Elias's brows furrowed. "Remember what?" The stars in the projection flared once, then faded. Then the warrior began walking again. He was heading toward their ship, and no one dared stop him. The ship's ramp hissed as it descended, steam venting around the edges in soft bursts. The crew didn't move. They watched as the ancient warrior approached the threshold like he had done it before, like stepping into a human vessel after centuries wasn't strange at all. Elias followed behind him, still trying to process what had just happened. His boots echoed in the silence as they stepped into the main corridor of the vessel. It was a tight fit for the warrior. He had to duck beneath the door frames, his armor brushing against the walls with every movement. Juno finally spoke, voice dry and wary. "Do we let him stay?" Elias didn't answer immediately. He was watching the way the lights flickered on in his presence, as though the ship itself was reacting to him. "I think he's already decided." The warrior paused at a junction, turning toward the ship's interface panel. His hand hovered near it, but he didn't touch it. Instead, symbols, alien, ancient, flickered across the screen. The ship's systems responded with quiet whirs, lights pulsing as if awakening. "Hey," Juno snapped. "He's inside our NAV systems." "He's not taking control," Elias said. "He's showing us something." A holographic map lit up the central hub. This one was different from the earlier projection. It showed the galaxy as it was now, stars and sectors labeled in human, Tavari, and other galactic languages. Then the stars began disappearing again, same pattern as before. This is real," said one of the crew. "These sectors, they were all hit by that plague, or conflict, or just vanished. We thought it was coincidence. Random collapse." The warrior turned to them slowly. "You do not see. You do not listen. But you feel." His voice wasn't words, not truly. It was understanding delivered through sensation, through presence. "What are you trying to tell us?" Elias asked. The warrior raised his hand again. Another projection. This time, it was a fleet. Not alien. Human. Old designs, long retired. Ships that had been lost in deep exploration or recorded as destroyed in failed expeditions. They were clustered around something. A dark star, dead and radiating something not measurable by physics. At the heart of it, a pulsing void. "That's not a star," Juno whispered. "That's something else." The warrior nodded once. "It consumes." He turned to Elias. "You have seen pieces. Now, you must see whole." The room shifted. Not the ship itself, but their senses. A sudden wave of darkness swept over them. Not cold, not hot, just wrong. The lights flickered again, and for a moment, the crew saw something through the warrior's memories. War. A war not recorded in any archive, not spoken of in any empire. Giants of metal and flesh clashing in the void. Creatures without form devouring fleets in a blink. Worlds cracking like dry bone under pressure. And always, the presence in the dark. A hunger that learned, adapted, and never stopped. Then it was over. The crew staggered. Some collapsed. Others leaned against the walls, gasping. "What the hell was that?" Juno asked, trembling. "A memory," Elias said. "A warning." The warrior stared at him for a long moment. "You are not many, but you remember." He turned and began walking toward the rear of the ship, toward the armory. "Should we stop him?" one of the crew whispered. Elias shook his head. "No, he's not going to hurt us." As if in agreement, the warrior paused in the armory doorway and looked back. Then he stepped inside. He moved past racks of weapons, ancient and modern, until he stopped before a sealed crate, one that hadn't been opened in years. He placed a hand on it, and it clicked open without protest. Inside was a piece of equipment no one had ever used. A prototype armor module, human-made, scrapped due to power inefficiency. The warrior studied it. Then he removed a piece of his own armor. The room held its breath. Beneath, there was no flesh, Just a lattice of glowing veins, metal fused with something organic, something long lost to understanding. He integrated the human module into his own armor with ease. Systems adapted. Lights flickered. He stood taller. Juno exhaled sharply. He's upgrading. Elias stepped forward. Why? Why now? The warrior faced him. Because it comes again. And you are not ready. Elias swallowed hard. Then teach us. Silence followed. The kind of silence that stretched, not from hesitation, but from weight. Then the warrior extended a hand toward Elias. It begins with you. In that moment, something passed between them. Not power. Not control. Understanding. Elias saw fragments. Images of forgotten wars, tactics lost to time, weapons never imagined. Not through force, but through memory. The warrior was giving him something. Trust. The room's lights dimmed again. And then, as if a switch had been flipped, alarms blared across the ship. Incoming signal. Juno shouted. Multiple vessels. Unknown signature. Elias moved to the terminal. The screen showed 6 ships approaching fast. Distortion fields active. No known faction. They're not broadcasting. No ID, she said. We're being jammed. The warrior turned slowly toward the screen. They follow. Elias didn't ask who. He already knew. Battle stations, he ordered. But we're a survey vessel, one of the crew shouted. Doesn't matter. Get to your posts. If they board us, we're done. Juno's hands flew across the console. I'll try to boost shield output and kill the NAV locks. Outside, the approaching ships shimmered, then they changed. Shapes folded in on themselves, reconfiguring mid-flight into something insectal. Organic. Weapons grew from hulls. There were no visible cockpits. Those aren't ships, someone whispered. They're alive. The warrior stepped forward, hand resting on the weapon across his back. He glanced at Elias once more. You opened the vault. You must choose. Elias clenched his fists. We fight. The warrior nodded. Then he moved. No orders, no hesitation. He strode to the loading ramp, and before anyone could stop him, he opened it. The wind howled. The stars blazed overhead, and the first of the enemy ships descended like vultures. The warrior leapt from the ship. He struck the ground with force that shook the landing site. Enemy fire rained down. He moved through it like a phantom, cutting arcs of blue energy with every swing of his weapon. Limbs fell. Screams, alien and mechanical, filled the night. The crew watched through external feeds, stunned into silence. He wasn't fighting. He was sending a message. And that message was simple. I am awake. Elias turned to the crew. We're not running. Not today. Prep emergency broadcast. The galaxy needs to see this. Juno stared at him. You think anyone's going to believe it? They won't have a choice. Outside, the warrior stood amid wreckage and ash. Smoke curled around his armor. The last of the enemy ships exploded behind him. He looked up. There would be more. Elias knew it. And he also knew this was only the beginning. The hangar reeked of scorched metal and strange blood. Bits of biological plating twitched in the aftermath of the warrior's destruction, twitching spasmodically before collapsing into stillness. He stood at the center, unmoving, as if waiting for something. Around him, the soil was carved with burning lines of energy where his weapon had passed, marking the ground with warning and declaration. Elias stepped cautiously out of the ship, his boots crunching over broken debris. He had seen combat before, seen men scream, seen enemies fall. But this wasn't war. This was execution. And the warrior had delivered it without mercy, without hesitation. I counted 6 ships, Juno said, following close behind, rifle at the ready. Where's the rest of the fleet? The warrior didn't speak. But the answer came a moment later when the sky split. A ripple, visible to the naked eye, tore across the upper atmosphere. Through it emerged something vast. It wasn't a ship in any conventional sense. It was more like a living fortress, curved and breathing, its skin glistening with moisture, teeth-like structures adorning the front of its hull. It's feeding, Juno murmured. That thing is pulling in orbiting satellites. Debris. Power signatures. The warrior turned to Elias, speaking in his voiceless way. Now you see its shadow, but not its name. That comes later. Elias swallowed. Then what's its purpose? To test. To find weakness. The warrior turned to the others. And to fear. Elias didn't hesitate. Then let's give it reason to be afraid. They rushed back into the ship, and the crew quickly assembled a battle-ready state despite the vessel not being built for war. But they had enough modular weapons and upgrades, experimental tech Elias insisted they keep, that could make them a threat. As the crew worked, the warrior stood silently in the ship's core, where the quantum anchor pulsed slowly, like a beating heart. He placed his hand on the field generator. Energy shimmered around him. The ship began to respond. Panels opened, conduits flared, and the hum of systems aligned in a way they never had before. "He's syncing with the ship," said their engineer, Rel. "Not like an interface. It's deeper, like he's becoming part of it." "He's ancient tech," Elias said. "Or something even older. Maybe the ship recognizes that," Juno added. "Or maybe it fears what's coming too much to resist." The warrior opened his eyes. In that instant, the vessel shuddered. Engines cycled. Weapons unlocked. Hidden compartments extended armor plating never meant to be deployed simultaneously. The ship groaned under the strain, but it obeyed. Outside, the fortress creature began descending toward the surface, slow and deliberate. It didn't use propulsion. It simply fell, carried by mass and intent. "Estimated impact in 5 minutes," said Rel. "We won't survive a direct hit." "Then we don't let it land," Elias said. "Point all weapons at the core cluster." Juno stared at the screen. "That'll barely dent it." The warrior stepped forward. "Not to destroy, to distract." Elias blinked. "Distract for what?" "You will see." Without warning, he stepped through the internal teleport ring, an experimental device used for moving between ground outposts. But it hadn't been online in years. No one had even calibrated it. And yet the warrior vanished. A moment later, external cams lit up with static and then clarity. He was standing on the creature's hull. He walked slowly across it, each step leaving molten footprints. The creature reacted immediately. Surface tendrils rose like spikes, aiming to impale him. He didn't stop. His weapon ignited in a burning arc. One strike severed a tower-sized appendage. The creature screamed. The sound was physical, not just audible. It shook the ship. It rattled bones. Lights flickered. The crew winced, clutching their ears, but the warrior stood unaffected. He raised his hand to the sky. The stars above shimmered. "What is he doing?" Juno asked, breathless. "I don't know," Elias said. "But it's not just a fight. It's a message." The warrior drove his blade deep into the creature's back. There was no blood, not in any natural sense, but the surrounding skin melted like wax near fire. In seconds, the creature began to rise again, this time thrashing, trying to shake him off. And then the sky cracked again. Something emerged. It wasn't a ship, not a creature. A beacon, floating, silent, blacker than space. Rel stared. "That's not human. That's not alien. That's old." The word came unbidden, not spoken, but felt. As if all of them knew it at once. Old beyond measurement. The beacon pulsed once, and a signal spread across the planet. The warrior turned his head slightly, acknowledging it. Then he looked back at the ship. "Now you must choose." The ship's AI blinked into presence for the first time in years. "Captain, external beacon is broadcasting a code embedded with genetic markers. It matches the warrior." "What does it want?" Elias asked. "Unlocking containment data." Translating. The message came through. "You are not the first. You will not be the last. But you are chosen." Elias stepped forward. "Chosen for what?" "To inherit the fire." The sky above began to churn. The creature roared again, even louder. The warrior dug in his heels, anchoring himself as the beacon activated fully. Light exploded from its surface, not blinding, but absolute. It scanned the surface, the ship, and each of them. Elias collapsed to one knee. Juno cried out. The whole crew fell, but not from pain, from knowledge. Each of them saw fragments of something immense. Cities floating on suns, titans walking through time, humanity as it could be, as it once might have been, before memory fractured. And the thing in orbit now, a remnant of what was left behind when they failed to contain the dark. Then the light faded. The warrior jumped from the creature's back. He didn't fall. He glided, guided by force fields or something far older. He landed near the ship again, and as he did, the creature began to shrivel. It had not been defeated. It had been marked. And it fled. "Where's it going?" Juno asked. "To warn the others." Elias understood. "It knows we're not just prey anymore." The beacon remained above, pulsing slowly. And then Elias heard it. Not in words, but in presence. Prepare. Others come. Stronger. Smarter. But you have one thing they do not. He looked at the warrior. You. The beacon faded, and silence returned. The ship had changed. Its systems pulsed differently now, almost alive with new rhythms, as though the beacon's signal had unlocked something buried deep within. Elias sat in the command chair, staring at the silent space where the creature had fled. The atmosphere felt heavier, not with dread, but with pressure, as if something enormous waited just beyond the veil. The crew moved with quiet efficiency. No one spoke much. Each one of them had seen something when the beacon activated. Not memories. Not dreams. Warnings. Juno broke the silence first. We're not ready for what's coming. We weren't ready for any of this, Elias replied. And we're still here. The warrior stood near the core again, unmoving. Watching. Listening. Or perhaps conversing with something they could not hear. He had not spoken since the creature fled, and yet Elias could feel his presence brushing the edge of thought. Rel tapped into the long-range scanner. Sir, we have multiple energy signatures entering the system. How many? More than a dozen. All different profiles. None matching the creature we just saw. Juno stepped forward, squinting at the readings. These aren't a single fleet. They're not coordinated. They're converging. Scavengers? Elias guessed. Or something worse? No. Pilgrims, the warrior said. Everyone froze. Elias stood. Pilgrims. The warrior's voice echoed faintly in their minds. They come to see the one who awoke the flame. Juno's mouth went dry. You mean us? Not just you. All of us. As the ships approached, their designs became clear. Each one bore symbols from long-lost empires, fractured civilizations that had vanished from the galaxy without explanation. No two were alike. One looked like a cluster of broken mirrors floating in cohesion. Another was made entirely of bone. Another, a cube, constantly folding in on itself without ever disappearing. Each of them sent a single message. We saw the light. We come in peace. We come to witness. The crew prepared for conflict anyway, but none of the approaching vessels fired. Instead, they formed a perimeter around the planet, taking up orbital positions like watchful guardians or silent sentinels. The warrior turned to Elias. They come not for conquest. Not yet. They are waiting to see what kind of fire you carry. Elias frowned. And what if they don't like what they see? Then they become the test. Like the creature before them. Juno narrowed her eyes. Are we just pieces on a board to you? The warrior turned to her, eyes glowing faintly. You are the future. I am only the past refusing to die. More signals arrived. Some of them sent transmissions that collapsed the ship's receivers. Others offered technology, maps, data, even small artifacts, strange and ancient. They're giving us gifts. Rel asked. Tributes, Elias said quietly. Or maybe they're just trying to be on the right side of whatever we've become. Still, not all who came were content to remain silent. One ship, massive and silver, like a dagger forged from starlight, broke from the formation. It didn't transmit a warning. It didn't request landing. It attacked. Energy beams crackled through space, lancing toward the human ship with terrifying speed. The first beam struck the shields and sent the entire crew tumbling. Systems flared. Sparks rained from overhead. She's powering for another shot. Rel shouted. Elias gritted his teeth. Return fire. The warrior raised his hand. No. Elias stared at him. No? They just try to kill us. They are not testing you. They are testing me. The warrior vanished again, teleporting directly onto the hostile ship. Cams tried to track him, but the moment he landed, the feed turned to static. For 3 full minutes, there was nothing but silence. Then the dagger ship split in half. No explosion. No fire. Just separation. 2 clean halves drifted apart like severed limbs. The ship died instantly, its lights winking out like stars at dawn. The warrior reappeared on their ship, smoke curling from his armor. He did not speak. No other ships moved. That was a message, Juno whispered. And everyone got it. More ships arrived. Not hundreds. Thousands. And not just ships. Structures. Massive latticeworks of crystal and alloy began to form in orbit, like scaffolding growing from invisible hands. Energy pulsed through them. Some ships began linking to the lattice. Others docked. They're building something, Rel muttered. Right here. Around us. Or for us, Elias said. We started this. Now they want to see if we can finish it. The warrior stepped beside him. You lit the signal. The galaxy saw the fire. Now it waits to see if you can carry it without burning yourselves. Elias took a slow breath. And what happens if we can't? Then they will tear it from your hands. Juno turned away from the viewport. So what now? Elias looked at the beacon still hovering in the distance, still pulsing. We prepare. The following days blurred into a storm of effort. The alien races offered knowledge, some of it ancient, some of it impossible to interpret. Artificial intelligences older than Earth's sun uploaded blueprints into the ship's systems. Engineers worked day and night integrating it, modifying the hull, the power core, even the life support systems. Elias didn't sleep much. None of them did. They knew what was coming. Not a war. Not yet. A trial. The lattice in orbit finally activated, surrounding the human ship like a cocoon. Inside, the ship began to change. Its skin morphed. Its systems hummed in new frequencies. The power core glowed with impossible light. The ship was reborn, and the warrior smiled. He stood at the helm with Elias now. Equal. Not above. Not below. Just together. It is ready, he said. What is? The flame. Elias touched the control panel. It pulsed with warmth, like a living thing. Then light it, he said. The warrior nodded, and the galaxy watched. The ignition sequence was silent. There was no dramatic roar, no shockwave, just a pulse. The kind of pulse that traveled farther than light, deeper than thought. It wasn't broadcast through antennas or relays. It moved through the fabric of space like a whisper to the void. The beacon flared one final time and dimmed. The lattice above the ship shimmered and then collapsed inward, not with violence, but like it had always been meant to dissolve, to pass the torch. The ship had changed. No longer a simple exploration vessel, it now carried architecture written in alien mathematics, hull plating that defied standard metallurgy, and a heart that pulsed with the essence of 1,000 civilizations. They had not upgraded the vessel. They had transformed it. The warrior placed his hand against the newly altered control pillar. He turned to Elias, whose fingers hovered uncertainly above the interface. You are the first in many eons who dared touch the flame. Now, the test begins. Elias nodded, not fully understanding, but accepting the weight of it. So what's the test? To remain human. With that, the warrior vanished again. Not just to the surface, but to the stars themselves. The ship's systems showed him fragmenting across space, speaking to the other ships, warning some, welcoming others, hunting a few. He was not one being now. He was a legend in motion. Rel stepped forward. Sir, new contact. What now? It's not a ship. It's a rift. Space had torn open. Not like a wormhole, not even like the usual rips in time they'd encountered before. This was raw, jagged, like the universe had been clawed apart. And from it, something stepped through. It wasn't a vessel. It wasn't even matter. It was shape and shadow, sound without origin. Every scanner failed. Every probe sent toward it disintegrated. The stars behind it bent. Crew members began to feel headaches just looking at the screen. Juno whispered, "We've seen something like this before. In those ruins. That creature that fled." "No," Elias said, narrowing his eyes. "This isn't the same." The rift being moved toward them. Slowly, patiently, confidently. The warrior's voice returned, distant and strained. "This is not of the galaxy. It does not play by its rules. It comes for what you hold." The flame, Elias realized. It wants the power. It feeds on potential, on ambition. It offers shortcuts, surrenders disguised as victories. Rel was already activating the weapons grid, but the ship rejected the input. "Sir, the system's locked out. It won't attack. It's not an enemy we fight like that," Elias murmured. He understood now. The real battle wouldn't be fought with missiles or plasma. This wasn't about firepower. This was about corruption. The ship was silent. The creature drew closer. And then it spoke. Not in words. In offers. Each crew member felt it differently. A vision. A voice. A longing fulfilled. To Juno, it offered a chance to save her brother, lost years ago in a failed colony rescue. To Rel, it showed him a command chair, a fleet under his orders, feared and respected. To Elias, it offered peace. An end to war. Earth reborn. No need to lead. No need to sacrifice. All of it. In exchange for the flame. Just let it go. Let the burden fall away. Let the fire pass into hands better suited to carry it. Elias almost gave in. Almost. But then he remembered the warrior, the ancient grief behind his eyes, the way he had watched civilizations crumble because they thought they could buy peace with compromise. Elias clenched his fists. No. The flame responded to his will. Light erupted from the core, not heat, not destruction, but something far older. Purity. A will that could not be bent. A fire that could not be corrupted. The rift creature screamed without sound. The flames surged, pouring through the lattice, into the orbiting ships, into the very rift itself. And it burned. It didn't scorch. It didn't destroy. It revealed. The rift being had no name. It had no truth. It was deception given form. The fire showed that to everyone watching. And then, finally, it ended. The rift closed. The ship dimmed again, breathing out. Juno collapsed to her knees, tears in her eyes. Rel sat back, shaking. We won. Elias didn't answer immediately. He stared out the viewport at the quiet stars. Then he whispered, we didn't lose ourselves. That's enough. The warrior returned hours later. You passed. Elias turned. Then it's over? For you know? This is where it begins. The galaxy knows now that you are not children, that you will not bend, that you can carry the flame. They'll come, won't they? Some to learn, others to take it. Yes, but we'll be ready. The warrior smiled for the first time. You already are. The ship, now named Emberlight by consensus, began its return toward Earth. But it would never truly return. Not the way it left. Because the galaxy had changed. Because one human saw an ancient warrior not as a threat, but as a wounded sentinel. And because when offered everything, they still chose to stay human. The fire would spread, but humanity would guide it. Together.